Hello again, everybody out there in YouTube world, YouTube land. This is going to be part 2 of my jail series that I started. I do apologize for the wait. I've had some things going on in life, dealing with different things. Come to find out, PTSD is very complex, and there's also some other issues like alcoholism and some other things that I have to deal with, and I've been working on all that. But now is the good time to start this second series of my jail experience. I think when I let off, I was in a holding area, and this holding area it's a reception area, and there's several cells there, but it's only a temporary area, so only supposed to be a temporary area. I was held there for 3 days. I have talked to other inmates too that have told me that they've been in there a week, which is ridiculous. Because it's single cells. You're only in there by yourself, and then you're supposed to either go to like a general population area, or you go to like one of the mental health cell areas like I did, but you're not supposed to be in there for very long. Anyway, I was in there for 3 days, and if you can imagine, this cell, just maybe an 8 by 8 with a 18-foot ceiling, and just in there by yourself with a concrete pad to sleep on, and it can be quite devastating, and it has devastated my mental health. I have nightmares from that experience. I have panic attacks from that experience, and other things that I have kept in the back of my mind during my military and police career, things that I didn't want to bring up had and were brought to the forefront, and because of that, I've had a lot of negative coping mechanisms after I got released. Alcohol was a big one, and I've been working through that. And thank God, I've got programs to look forward to. Got the RUSH program through the Wounded Warrior Project, and the VA has now finally got me in and approved for programs, which took a long time, but it's finally in the works there. So when I left this reception area, they put me in C8. C8 is a mental health area of the jail. It's just supposed to be for like mental health. I guess it's their like mental health ward, if you want to call it that. But there's nothing in regards to treatment for mental health. It's just, this is a specific area where we put these folks who are who have mental health issues or mental health problems or struggles or whatnot. We put them in these areas. We put them over in this area. They don't have a therapist. They don't have a psychologist who comes by and talks to you. There's nothing. Even the medications, like when the nurses would come by, the times were so sporadic of when these nurses would come by. And honestly, some of the nurses were lazy, and I'll say that because they were. They just didn't care, It was like they were on their time. They didn't care if you had to have a specific dose at a specific time, because I was supposed to have doses 3 times a day because of how much trauma I had been through and was dealing with because of my complex PTSD. Like, I have a lot of things going on at once. I had to have medications 3 times a day. They didn't do it. And it's all more the reason, to look into the jails in this country and the prison systems and how we're treating our prisoners is quite ridiculous. It's really unsatisfactory. So I had only spent maybe a week in there, and in there's about 12 bunks. It's a little larger area, but you have one shower. There's one TV, some tables, but we were supposed to get, again, there's that special word, supposed to. We were supposed to get outdoor time every day, but we wouldn't get it every day. And again, you have to deal with people who are in charge of you. So guards, like we had to deal with the guards, right? And what kind of mood that they were in, and if they wanted to let us out, and if they felt like it. There's no standard rule. There's no standard system. They had a schedule on the wall near the door, but they never followed that. They didn't follow it. And I don't think they cared, because we're prisoners, so we're the dregs of society, so we can just be treated like absolute dog shit, I guess. And pardon my French, but that's just what it felt like. They just treat you like crap, and it makes you wonder, like, what's going on in the jails elsewhere. When I was a DRE, which stands for Drug Recognition Expert, when I was a DRE and I was doing my evaluation practicals, so you have a week of where you do evaluation practicals. So we go to like detention centers. We went up to Baltimore City's detention center, and talk about an absolute cluster mess. Just, total chaos the whole time that I was there. And, a lot of the prisoners were complaining about cleanliness, and, it was really dirt. And then, this is kind of during the time too of COVID. So it was like, there was supposed to be some extra precautions, but it's just a total wreck from the top down. I'm not sure if there is a jail system out there that exists that truly is considerate of the people that they are caring for, or they're supposed to supervise, like the prisoners. I have watched, there was like a Netflix series about different jails, and I think Scandinavia, or like Norway or Sweden, had some interesting ways. They had an interesting system for their prisons that I thought was quite interesting, which I'll probably look more into. But so when I was moved to what was called A3. A3 is a upgraded mental health area. Again, there's no mental health professionals. There's no psychologists that come by to treat you. They have one psychiatric doctor who is absolutely overloaded, who can't see everybody, who can't see people and actually do their job because they're so overloaded with so many cases, and they have to do evaluations. When you get there, get in line, you're about 2 weeks out to see this one person who's hired to just do evaluations. They're not there to do any sort of treatment therapy. They're not there to, they're not interested in, how you're feeling, or what you want to talk about, or, how to come up with like a treatment plan. It's just, here's some drugs, shut up, and you're a rat in a jail. So when I got to A3, there was a really nice guard, or COs as they're called, correctional officers. And she and I had a good conversation, and I won't name her because I don't want her to be to get in trouble, because she she had a logical, thoughtful mind and realized that there were a lot of problems with the prison system, especially in Anne Arundel County. So she was complaining that, and a lot of the inmates complained that mental health therapy, mental health treatment was significantly, not only personnel was understaffed, but it wasn't a priority. There was no priority. There was no priority to try and help those people who are in that jail. You know, when people come into the jail, what is the ultimate goal, right? Like, what is the ultimate goal? I'm assuming the ultimate goal is if someone goes to jail because they did something wrong, it's to get them in there, right? Allow them that time to say, okay, I did something really wrong. Now I need to work on myself to get better now, because I'm not worried about other things. There's no other distractions. You're in the jail 24 hours a day or whatnot. You know, now you can work on yourself, right? But they leave you to your own devices, right? So they give you your medications. Sometimes it's sporadic on the times. You know, they feed you and that's it. There's no, you know, and I signed up for, you know, I can't tell you how many times I actually signed up to see a mental health person or to, you know, even see a doctor. You know, I wanted to see a doctor and never saw a medical doctor, just saw a nurse, and they just rush you through. They treat you like garbage. It's not really important to them. They just want to get your vitals, and then they type it in a computer and away you go, you know. And that's about it. That's just how you get treated in there. But anyway, I had a conversation with this guard. There's a serious lack of mental health focus in the jails. I mean, you get people in there, you want to rehabilitate them and say, okay, we've worked on this person worked on themselves, and they put the work in, because they have to put the work in, right? Like, you have to admit you did something wrong. I admitted I did something wrong. Now I need to work on myself. Okay, how did I get myself in here? What do I need to do to take corrective action? So, you know, and there's no help in that. It's just, you're in there, good luck, and then you get kicked out. And I've had to go back to Jennifer Road to check in for pretrial, and I've seen people outside sleeping on the benches at the little bus housing stops, and you know, you're just let out, and there's nothing, you know, and that's why these places are really hopeless, and there's no standard of care. But anyway, this guard recognized that there were some serious problems, and she told us, when you get out, if you have the ability, tell the world, tell everybody that the jails, the prisons, more specifically in Anne Arundel County, need to be reevaluated. The mental health, the medical health needs to be reevaluated. It's unsatisfactory to have one psychiatric doctor for one entire jail with all these prisoners in there and zero mental health staff. You have one guy, I remember his name's Willie, he's a really cool guy, but he would come by, he just had a clipboard, man. He just was asking those questions, trying to work through whatever you needed to work through, and next it's like an assembly line, you know, is what it is. There really is no time and attention paid to this human being did X, Y, and Z. We need to talk to them. We need to figure out a plan, and we need to try and get them set up for success when they leave here. I was fortunate. I was fortunate enough to have friends, and other folks that assisted me and helped me. But if you don't have that community, you don't have that family, you don't have that friend base to help you, you're literally screwed, you know. And not to mention, when I was in A3, so A3 again was a special mental health ward. It was a little bit wider, had more space, 2 TVs, there were less prisoners there. But in that A3 section was a C class area, which was for like severe mental health illness. And guess what? They had their own cell. They were locked in there 24 hours a day. They got maybe 5 or 10 minutes if they wanted to come out and shower. But they feed their food through a tray, and it's like, it reminded me when I was younger and I was living in Southern California. We would go to the San Diego Zoo. It kind of reminded me of like a zoo animal being locked in a cage, and you know, they have these special trays and they feed it through this little food tray thing through the door, and it's like, this is acceptable, this is okay. And one time, well actually 2 times on 2 separate occasions, there was a gentleman in there who refused to give the tray back. They were supposed to give these little plastic trays back, you know. It's a plastic tray, so it's like, you can't do anything with it other than it has food on it for you to then take and then eat from it and eat off of it, because it's a food tray, you know. You can't do anything else with it. But because he refused to give it back, and because the jail refuses to have a standard of care for mental health, Anne Arundel County Jennifer Road Detention Center, because they have failed, utterly failed to help these folks, including myself, on a mental health level, on a basic, standardized, humanistic mental health care level. What their reaction was, the COs, because they demanded that he give this tray back, and you know, and to their credit, the CO's credit, they did try to get it back. They do try to talk to him, but you know what they do when they don't listen? They get guards and some sort of special unit. They all get this CDU gear. CDU stands for civil disturbance, and they get this gear on, this protective gear on. They look like baseball catchers, and so they get all this stuff on, and there's like 10 or 12 of them, and they do video record it. They have a person videoing it, but they go in there and they pepper spray the hell out of the cell, because the guy's not giving this stupid plastic tray. Happened twice, and they drag the guy out of the cell like he's some kind of, you know, drugged up, you know, circus animal, you know, that needs to perform and just not listening to the performers. They literally drag this guy, chains and everything, you know, and you know, he had some blood coming from his nose. I mean, just I wish people knew what was going on in these jails, because it happened on 2 separate occasions. We got locked in, but you could hear everything going on, and I had a little window slit where I could see, and they treated this guy like utter garbage, like human garbage, just because he wouldn't give a stupid plastic tray. They pepper sprayed the whole cell. I told the guard, I said, I have COPD. I breathe that shit in. It's going to hurt me. It's going to affect me. And it did 2 times that they did it. Because that pepper spray, it's an enclosed area. Once you spray pepper spray, it's going to fill the whole area, and it's going to get into the HVAC system. It was really sad to see. And good luck trying to go to sleep, because in this A3 unit, the C section had very severe mental health illness. They would slam on the doors, they would bang on it, they would scream, yell, cuss all night, and you're not, you know, sleep is pretty crucial to human mental health and development. It's like, you couldn't get to sleep. And I prayed a lot in that unit, in that area. And by the grace of God, I was released. But you wonder why people get out of jail and then they come back, because they get treated like absolute garbage. I thought that as a society that we could be doing better, that we want these people rehabilitated in a sense, but we want to take care of them. We want to treat them like humans, despite what they have done. There is and there should be a standard level of care, and it's not right to treat human beings the way that they treated not only myself but other prisoners in the cell. When I was in the C8 area, I had a panic attack. I had chest pains, and the nurse just looked right at me. Oh, you got your medications, you'll be fine. She walked right off. She just kept going. And I actually had to push the emergency button because I was short of breath. I was having trouble breathing. I was having chest pains. And I actually had to push the emergency button. And then finally they let me out of that cell area to address what was going on. You know, they just don't take people seriously. I guess because they have to deal with it on a daily basis. So I give that, an understanding. But hey, you are in custody and supposed to care for these people in your charge, in your custody, your care. It doesn't matter whether they're faking it or not. You have to go and give them care. You can't just refuse it. Oh, you got your medications, you'll be fine. And that's where police officers get in trouble. Because they've done the same call over and over again. It's the same thing, same guy, same drug user, whatever, and they don't take it seriously, and the person ends up dying. You have to treat everybody with respect, and you have to follow that standard of care, no matter what. But they didn't take it seriously, so the nurse just walked off and thought I was joking. But I actually had contacted an attorney because of what terrible experience that I had in there. I'd actually contacted an attorney to see if they could do anything, but nothing could be done. And so I'm hoping by making these videos, somebody will see these things and at least address the county council or something. And ironically, the Jennifer Road Detention Center assistant warden, I had a crisis intervention team come to the jail because they were checking on me, and they are mental health professionals, social workers, things like that. And they help people in the county for free. They offer these services. So they came to the jail because they knew me. And I was actually accosted by the assistant warden at Jennifer Road, and she demanded to know why they kept coming in there, and just the arrogance and the level of disrespect that she had in her voice and her tone and her attitude. It's like, no wonder why this jail and this system is absolutely unequivocally broken and flawed, absolutely flawed, because you have folks like her who are supposed to be in charge with disrespectful and nasty attitudes running these jail systems and running these jail houses. It's unsatisfactory, absolutely unsatisfactory. It was disgusting. And when I was released, I had to come back for pretrial services. So I was shell-shocked. So I had crisis intervention team drive me up there. I had them walk me in just to help me get through this process, because the jail, they didn't care about your mental health. So I had a crisis intervention team officer with me. And again, you had the assistant warden come out and stuck her nose in our business because she just needed to know what was going on. And again, she pulled the officer aside and was just treating him with such disrespect and disdain. And it's like, I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, how dare you treat an officer who's here to help me mentally process and get through the pretrial service interview. He's not doing anything wrong. I wanted him there, you know? But that, again, there's what I'm trying to show is this person's in charge and they have such an issue, such a problem with a officer whose focus is crisis intervention and mental health in her jail, and she's, in my opinion, had an absolutely negative reaction to it and wanted to know every single thing and why he was there. And it makes me wonder, what is she trying to do with that? Like, what is her goals and accosting and questioning that officer and treating him with disrespect? It makes you wonder if she's trying to hide something. In my 16 years in law enforcement, I feel like the assistant warden at Jennifer Road may be trying to hide something and doesn't like outside people coming in to take notice of it. But I can attest, being in there and making these videos, that there are definitely some bad things going on in that jail that need to be addressed. And it makes me wonder about the other jails out throughout the country. I mean, this is just one little place in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. It's like, imagine what's going on in the country. It's really unsatisfactory. But anyway, going back to this guard who was talking to us, she was really nice and sweet, and you know, said, when you get out of here, you guys are the only ones that can really get out there and get your voices out there and be heard. You know, she actually encouraged us to do that, and I have a lot of respect for her. And I really think that, you know, my experience there in A3 was a little bit better, but again, you know, you're locked in there 24 hours a day. I got one time. I went out one time, outside one time. You know, what happened to the yard time? You know, what happened to having human beings allowed the opportunity to get fresh air? Fresh air. It's nothing special, fresh air. And they wouldn't do it, you know? It's absolutely terrifying. And it's like, you wonder why people sometimes will go out, they'll get released because they're treated like animals inside this institution. They try to get jobs, they can't get hired because people know that they went to jail, or they run a background check, and then they go right back into the jail. And people wonder why that happens. Anyway, there was a story that I wanted to talk about, and I nicknamed him Jimmy because I want to protect him. But Jimmy is 11 years. He served 11 years in the U.S. Army, and he deployed to Korea, and there were some things that he experienced over there, and he had PTSD. He was never deployed to a combat area, but he was in Korea and had some things going on there in his life, and he came back home with PTSD, and he was struggling. And with a lot of veterans, including myself, alcohol is like the number one to go to, because you're trying to drown out things, and it's really bad. But one night he came home, he was done with work, he had a drink at home, and then he went to a local bar. At the local bar, he drank and drank and drank, and Jimmy told me that he had had trouble with alcohol in the past, and that he would actually black out. He would black out, but he told me, you know, I would black out at home, and I never had any issues because I was at home. Wasn't driving, wasn't out, whatever. But this time he was actually out and about, and he blacked out. And when he left the bar, several people accosted him, and he ended up getting into a fight with one, got in his vehicle, and then as he was trying to leave, and in this process, he ended up running a couple people over. Thank God no one was killed, but there were some severe injuries. And Jimmy, I met Jimmy in there, and he had lost all hope. And I pray for him, because when I was sitting there talking to him at the table, we had started a Bible study. And we, every single morning after we ate breakfast, we would follow this little daily bread booklet, and we would go with our Bibles, and we would have like maybe a 15-minute session, 10-15-minute session, and then we would talk after. And Jimmy told me that every time he goes to bed, he does pray for the victims, and he's been writing up a letter of an apology to all the families. And he told me that he had trouble and struggles with alcohol. And so what the jail does is they have an Alcoholics Anonymous that they go to, but it doesn't address the root problems. His PTSD. He has PTSD. It doesn't address mental health in the jail. So what happens when Jimmy gets back out? Does he go back to alcohol? Maybe. But Jimmy told me, that he prays for the families every day. And that's not to say that he, should just be forgiven, but that is to say that he has acknowledged that he did something terrible, wrong, and that he is addressing his wrongdoing by admitting it, and by saying that, I pray every day for the victims and the families. And I actually have his letter when I was writing. I had asked him, and he did give me authorization to talk about his story. In that, so on August 21st, this is when we started the Bible study and started getting into the nitty-gritty. But he said that he felt trapped, and that alcohol was his way out, and he just hadn't addressed the PTSD. And I think that goes to mental health awareness, that there needs to be more awareness for PTSD, for mental health. I mean, for God's sakes, we got to help each other out here, I'm not perfect. I have a lot of flaws. I made a lot of bad mistakes in my life, but I'm trying to get better. I'm fortunate because I have things like the VA, which the VA is extremely slow, and it's a painful, annoying process. But finally, I have gotten into some programs to help me with the alcohol, the PTSD, some of the suicide things, finally. But, it's taken a long time, and I think it's just unsatisfactory. I think we need to have more programs for the general population, not just veterans, but everybody. Anyway, this is going to wrap up my second video here. There was so when I was in C8, they would always make this meal called the hookup, and they would order top ramen, and they would get mayonnaise and mustard and top ramen, and they would put like garlic spice and salt, and they would take Doritos and like crunch them up and throw it all in this one bag. Is crazy. And we'd have to use the shower. Like, they would have to use the shower to get hot water. That's how you got hot water in jail, is you use the showers. So for all those out there, like, if this is a shock, like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. How we have to have better facilities and maintenances and standard of care for prisoners. We had to get hot water from the stupid shower. We didn't get it, there wasn't like a faucet with hot and cold. You just turn the shower on, and hopefully the shower just gets scalding hot so you can get hot water. But anyway, they would put hot water in this bag with everything mixed in, and then they would leave it for a couple minutes, and then the top ramen, the noodles would soak in the moisture in the water, and it would be this like gooey, disgusting mass of top ramen and mayonnaise and mustard and spices and Doritos. It's really I thought it was disgusting, but a lot of the prisoners actually really liked it. But I just wanted to give you that last tidbit for the end of this this episode, Second Jail. I pray every day for the men and women in jails and in the mental institutions, because it's really hard. And I just got a little taste of it. And I pray every day for the men and women who are in jail and in the mental institutions. So if you're watching this video, please pray for everybody in the jails and the mental institutions. Pray that they find Jesus. Pray that they atone for their sins and that they make right. But I hope that people watching this will maybe take a look and maybe contact their local representatives and say, hey, what steps are in place to address standard of care for prisoners in our jails. God bless. Have a great day. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.